being brown does not mean you cannot be racist. You know, he could be racist towards people darker than him or lighter than him or people that are Oriental or Asian. Like, it's insane. It's absurd to assume that he is somehow privileged based on the color of his skin. What he wants is brown privilege. He wants black privilege,
Hmm.
and he's not getting it. And thank God, because first of all, it's a lie. You know, if I was white, this wouldn't be happening because I'm a professor. Blah blah blah. Look at Jordan Peterson. Professor Jordan Peterson has had the police question him. He's also had his credentials questioned because of politics, basically. So this does happen on both sides. In fact, it happens on the right more often than not. And this is, again, one of the reasons that I brought this case against Kehinde. And the police said to me, would you be willing to go to court? Would you be willing to take this whole way? Darn right I would. I want to see him in jail. I think he is one of the biggest racists we have in the United Kingdom. He's caused more racial division over the last few years, especially over Black Lives Matter and that period, than anyone else in a long, long time. He wants us to go back to no blacks, no dogs, no Irish. That's the kind of methodology he's pushing for, and it's dangerous to our society. So yes, lock him up.
Breaking right now, the UK's first professor of so-called black studies is facing a criminal investigation over a video where he called our very own Calvin Robinson a house. And I'm not going to say the word, actually, but it's an N-word, not the N-word, another N-word. The Independent reports that Professor Kehinde Andrews, now you know this guy, he's on the hard left, he's very good mates with Harry and Meghan, he's a nasty character. The Independent reports he was visited by 3 police officers at his Birmingham home on Wednesday morning and invited to attend a voluntary interview. Now, he has tried to argue that terms like coconut, house N-word, one with the C word, Uncle Tom, are, quote, vital expressions of black political thought that should be celebrated, but not policed. However, this complaint to the West Midlands Police is being taken seriously, and the police have confirmed that they are investigating, telling the newspaper, we've received a report of racist comments being posted online and we're carrying out inquiries. There is no place for hate crime and we'll investigate any reports we receive. So to talk exclusively about this criminal action, I am joined now by the aforementioned Father Calvin Robinson. Father, look, tell me about this. What's going on?
Right, well, initially, I saw a tweet from Kehinde Andrews, Professor Kehinde Andrews, that said something along the lines of, it's not illegal to call someone a coconut, a house Negro, a coon, or an Uncle Tom. And he said, I'll give you some examples. And he listed off all these politicians and then included me for some reason. He was like, Suella Braverman, Kwasi Kwarteng, Rishi Sunak, I believe. He put all these brown politicians in a list and then put my name on there. I was like, why is he lumping me in with these politicians first and foremost? But then why is he calling us Uncle Toms, house Negroes, coons, and bounties and all these horrible terms? So I clicked on his tweet. There was a link to a video. I clicked the video, and he spent at least half an hour just lambasting us all. It was awful. It was horrible. You know, I'm almost used to getting called these horrible names by now because this is what the far left do, right? The so-called anti-racists are actually the most racist people out there, and they're always for throwing insults at people that they disagree with. But for Kehinde Andrews to do it so openly, so overtly, I thought, there's no way I can let him get away with this. If the shoe was on the other foot, I would be banged up for a hate crime or hate speech incident. So I thought, let's use their own weapons against them. I'm going to go to the police. I'm going to tell the police this guy is being racially abusive. It's a hate crime. It's hate speech. Do what you normally do. Show me that you're not two-tiered. Show me that it affects the people on the left as much as it affects the people on the right. Because otherwise, this whole system is falling apart with hypocrisy. And so the police have taken it serious. Credit to them. They said they're going to go and arrest him, and they said they'll get back to me. And they are looking into what was said on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. So he put it across all his social media platforms, just calling me horrible names. Racially abused. Why? To what end? Because this is what Black Studies is all about. It's steeped in critical race theory. It's neo-Marxism. It's the idea, well, it's basically white supremacy. It's the idea that white people are in some privileged position based on the melatonin count, and that somehow brown people are held back and oppressed and victims throughout their whole life based on their pigmentation. It's absurd. we live in a society where people have lots of different privileges, lots of things holding them back, and your skin color may or may not have anything to do with any of that. And what we should be telling people is that if you keep your head down in your books, you work hard, you can achieve something in life. You can do whatever you set your mind to. If you work hard enough, doesn't matter if you're brown, white, yellow, your skin color does not affect your ability, your skills, or your talents, or at least it shouldn't do. But people like Kehinde Andrews are holding society back and pushing us back towards segregation and racial disharmony.
And it's the complete hypocrisy of it too, isn't it, Calvin? Because we're able to be called gammons all the time. I get called a gammon all the time. Now, that is clearly a racist comment, because it's only been made about me because I have white skin. And the thing is, you either believe in free speech or you don't. And as you point out, the UK is fast becoming a police state where the white working classes are thrown in prison for posts on X, yet we seem to believe that if you happen to be black or Asian yourself, it is acceptable to be racist towards people of your own colour. That seems to be what's going on. Now, Kehinde Andrews, of course, Calvin, of course, has now turned the fact that he is being interviewed by the police into an issue of racism. So this is what he has said. He said, "It is deeply concerning that the police would want to haul in a professor to question me about my area of expertise. This would never happen if I were white or the work I do was given the respect it deserves. The police have a long history of criminalizing black and brown people. Now we are seeing that converge with the wider attack on black knowledge, which has been erased from university, the closure of black courses and more." And Calvin, this is where I just despair, because he's been racist, and yet he's now saying that he is suffering from racist because the police want to look into his racism. It's nuts.
I actually can't stand it. It is insane. This is their whole mentality, isn't it? So he clearly thinks he's above reproach. He thinks he's above the law. The fact that he says my work should be respected, I'm a professor, blah, blah, that doesn't mean anything. If you are breaking the law, you're breaking the law. It doesn't matter if you're brown, white, professor, cleaner. It doesn't matter, or it shouldn't matter. We should be having equality under the law in this country. And this is the whole reason I've brought this case against him, because he clearly is being racist towards me. He's racially abusing me and others, and somehow still think that's acceptable, still thinks he can get away with it, and thinks he should not be punished or even questioned about it because he happens to be brown. Now, being brown does not mean you cannot be racist. You know, he could be racist towards people darker than him or lighter than him, or people that are Oriental or Asian. Like, it's insane. It's absurd to assume that he is somehow privileged based on the color of his skin. What he wants is brown privilege. He wants black privilege, and he's not getting it. And thank God, because first of all, it's a lie. You know, if I was white, this wouldn't be happening because I'm a professor, blah, blah, blah. Look at Jordan Peterson. Professor Jordan Peterson has had the police question him. He's also had his credentials questioned because of politics, basically. So this does happen on both sides. In fact, it happens on the right more often than not. And this is, again, one of the reasons that I brought this case against Kehinde. And the police said to me, would you be willing to go to court? Would you be willing to take this whole way? Darn right I would. I want to see him in jail. I think he is one of the biggest racists we have in the United Kingdom. He's caused more racial division over the last few years, especially over Black Lives Matter and that period, than anyone else in a long, long time. He wants us to go back to no blacks, no dogs, no Irish. That's the kind of methodology he's pushing for, and it's dangerous to our society. So yes, lock him up.
The thing is, for me, I just think you either believe in the law or you don't. And it should make absolutely no difference what color you are. And the fact that now anti-white racism is being accepted is ludicrous if we truly have a system where there is no two-tier justice. And Calvin, I wanted to show you a very interesting video that juxtaposes some of what Starmer has said recently in terms of the riots and so-called racism, and the former Home Secretary, Suella Braverman. Watch this.
It's clearly racist We've got to stop trying to guilt white people and branding all English people as racist. This concept of white privilege is a nonsense to me. Say that to the white working class boys in Britain who are the most underachieving when it comes to literacy and numeracy and school outcomes. Say that to young girls in northern city towns who were raped and abused by gangs of largely Pakistani Muslim men. So I think we need to stop, gaslighting the British people. I'm going to keep saying these things because people need to hear them. When I spoke out about grooming gangs, I was vilified, but I'll do it again because I'll never forget meeting those young women in Rotherham and Rochdale, and those women who had been raped, who had been abused, who had their lives destroyed, and they were telling me about their experiences and how the authorities turned a blind eye.
First, what's so important about being independent is I only tell you about products that I use, truly believe in, and think can improve your life. One of those products is Verso. When I decided to prioritize my health, staying fit and sharp, because I wanted to live a busy and engaged life, I realized that it will only get me so far. Scientists like David Sinclair have proven we can now reverse aging with interventions that go beyond healthy habits. So I was looking for a product that I knew would enhance everything I was already doing, but was backed up by solid evidence. So that's why I use Cellbean by Verso. It has scientifically proven ingredients that fight the effects of aging by increasing NAD+ levels, which is the stuff that powers every cell in your body. I've been taking the product for a number of months now. Right at the start of my day, it's been genuinely transformative. Fasting is easier, I've lost fat, I'm eating less too, and the team at Verso tell me that is due to its blood sugar regulating effects, which lead to fewer cravings. I'm sleeping better, waking up with more energy, feeling so much happier too. This product has taken years off my life, and I would love you to experience the same thing. Verso publishes third-party testing from each batch produced to guarantee you're getting what you paid for, and today there's an amazing offer. If you head right now to buy.ver.so/outspoken, you will save 15% on your first order. All you need to do is use the coupon code outspoken. So I'm going to put the link in our YouTube and Rumble description, but to repeat, it's buy.ver.so/outspoken. Use the coupon code outspoken. What do you make of that, Calvin?
Savella's right on all of this stuff. She's very good on this. And I too have spoken to survivors of CSE up and down the country who felt neglected, who felt let down by the system because they happened to have been white. And they know that because their abusers were Asian men, were Pakistani Muslim men, that they got away with it because of their race. So they had Asian privilege. And these white girls had the opposite of white privilege. They had white disadvantage, actually. And at the same time, all of the lefty media, the lefty politicians keep pushing this narrative that being white somehow gives you a privilege and actually helps you out in life. When we see so many people struggling in life because of this, because white working class kids are let down in schools because no one wants to address that demographic. No one wants to help that demographic because it's fashionable to help the black kids, the Asian kids. And likewise with these CSE survivors, nobody is really helping them. And they've also been, the government is complicit, the politicians are complicit, the police are complicit, the councils are complicit. They've all been pushed down because the system is so racist against white people in favor of non-white people. And so my case is going to be interesting because I'm half white, half not white. And Kehinde Andrews, as a black man, is racially abusing me. And therefore, where does this fall on the lefty narrative? Is it okay because I'm brown? I can be because I'm half white, can I be racially abused? Or because I'm half brown, does that mean I can't? It's going to disrupt their system. Let's see what happens.
It really is. And presumably, Calvin, your message to folk like Suella Braverman and Priti Patel and Kwasi Kwarteng and James Cleverly, folk who are non-white or mixed race or Asian or black on the right, is to not take this type of racist abuse lying down. So, for example, you would argue that if they are called a coconut, like, for example, Narinder Kaur called those folk on my GB News show, you would say, call the police, take this seriously, because what you are going to be doing is exposing probably the fact that there is two-tier justice in the UK, which is something obviously that Keir Starmer denies.
Yeah, we let them get away with it for so long because they know that we believe in free speech and they know we believe in freedoms that they don't. And so they abuse that and they twist that to their own advantage. We have to clamp down on it. was actually Kemi Badnoch that told me this. She's like, you've got to use this as an example. You've got to go through the legal systems. And I'm like, yes, I absolutely will. Suella Braverman is a prime example. She was called a coconut. And people were holding up signs calling her a coconut. Kehinde Andrews supported the person who was calling Suella Braverman a coconut. This is why this whole conversation started. You know, that this so-called professor has been on national television admitting that he's been racist in the past. I was accusing him of being racist towards me. He said, no, I didn't say that about him. I said that about someone else. Like, I've just retweeted the clip because I've just remembered it. But these people get away with it, and we've got to stop letting them, because they certainly don't let us get away with anything.
No, indeed they don't. And remember, this is someone who Harry and Meghan decided to platform on their Netflix show. What do you make of the fact, Calvin, that he says the house N-word term dates back to Malcolm X, and that's how he justifies using it? He says Malcolm X popularized the idea of the house N-word. Those people who, because of their British relative connection to the master, tend to be deluded into believing they're not slaves. On the plantation, they live in the house, get slightly better conditions. They're not catching hell from sun up to sundown. So because of that, house N-word starts to identify with the master more than the master identifies with himself. The point of this is to say that house N-word's wrong because they're treated slightly better. They're missing the point. They're still slaves. This is love teaching from Malcolm. He's calling out, saying you are still a slave. You are still suffering from racism.
It's genuinely insane, and it infuriates me. I am not a slave. I've never been a slave. I do not have a master. I'm not oppressed. He used these words in his language. He said Calvin loves his master more than something else. I'm like, what do you mean? I don't have a. Who do you think is my master? This whole idea that somehow I'll be treated better. Better by who? Who do you think my master is, and how do you think they're going to treat me better? Because I'm certainly not treated better than him in a vast many circles. He has, if anything, the so-called anti-racist left are the ones with the privilege. He is the one who gets platformed by Harry and Meghan and is, given praise in the media for being so-called anti-racist. Actually, he is the one that's divisive. He is the one that's harmful. And it's people like me and you that are the ones that are called these names, like gammon or house Negro, without any consequence. Okay, I'm going to pose the question. I'm going to say, who is my master? Who do you think my master is? Because it's really getting on my nerves.
Indeed. It must be particularly frustrating for you, Calvin, given, as you're very open and honest about, you have one white parent, one black parent, and you are the true definition of someone who associates with both sides of your culture, as should be embraced, surely.
This is an interesting thing. So my mother's white, right? My father's black. Does Kehinde think that my mother is a slave owner and my father is a slave? Does my mother own my father or something? It's a weird obsession, because all this Malcolm X stuff and Martin Luther King stuff, it's American politics anyway. We didn't have slavery in the United Kingdom. It's an entirely different situation. We didn't have segregation. We didn't have the civil rights wars. It's an entirely different history. Why is he living in a different world? I mean, the United Kingdom had some racial problems, of course, but we got over them a lot faster. We progressed a lot faster than other countries because we never had the slavery in our land.
Thank you so much for watching Dan Wootton Outspoken. Please do subscribe if you want lots more clips and interviews like that. Plus, if you want to watch our totally uncensored after show, then visit www.outspoken.live.